Here we go. Okay, so welcome to our 6th week, which is kind of actually our 7th week. Thank you again so much for your patience and your understanding about the technical difficulties this week. And do let me know, type in if there's any problem with the sound. Now I'm back on my own computer in my home office. If there's a problem with the sound, I'm confident I can fix it in about 15 seconds. So we should be fine today. So we're here today for the topic of keeping it going. How, once we wrap up these 6 or 7 weeks and the work that we've done together, how can we keep moving forward? And before we get started, I want to share what our goals are for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to take inventory of our progress in the last 5 to 7 weeks. And then we're going to set goals for the next 2 months because, it's important to have that big, hairy, ambitious goal, but it's also important to have doable goals that help us move forward on a regular basis. And then we're going to each have an opportunity to decide on what support and accountability we're going to use going forward in the next couple months. So that's what we're going to work on today. And as always, remember to grab your course workbook. It's got all the exercises in it for today, a calendar if you need that, a journal, and a place to write down questions because we will have the Q&A at the end of the day today like we always do. And before we start, I want to share this Eleanor Roosevelt quote with you that I find very powerful and very sort of reassuring. It says, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You're able to say to yourself, I have lived through this horror, and I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing you think you cannot do." So there's a lot of reasons why I love this. One of the biggest reasons that I love this quote is it's a little bit dark, and I have sort of a dark sensibility because I know that some things in life are dark, but also because it's not theoretical for the people that I work with, for you in this course and for me and for other people who've had really big health challenges in their life. We've all been through some form of horror. Most people by the time they're 40 or so in their life have, but certainly if you've had a really intense health challenge or somebody close to you has. So if you get nothing else from this course, and if this one thing helps keep you going, it's really that while society may make you feel weak or make you think that you're less than because of your physical challenges or your emotional challenges, I know the truth, and Eleanor Roosevelt knows the truth, and I really want to make sure that you do also, that you are a powerful hero who actually has come through so much and has the power to keep going and to get where you want to go, even sometimes when you think that it's the thing you cannot do. So I want to start this last week with just that reminder that I know what a hero you are and how strong you are, and I have a lot of faith in you and your ability to keep moving on from where you've gotten to today. So we're going to keep that idea in mind as we move forward today. So the first thing I want to do is just do a brief review of the 5 practices that we covered. And as I've said many times over this program, the idea is not to try to perfect all of these practices in your life. It's to take either a little bit from each of them or maybe a lot from one of them and apply it. And if you spend 6 weeks applying, one idea, then that will change your life a little bit. Do it again for the next 6 weeks with a different idea. And by the end of a whole year, wow, things are completely different. So let's just go over these again for a moment, and then you can think about, okay, which of these do I want to really be working on? Which of these will really be leveraged for me as I go forward in the next couple months? So the first practice was take charge, which was really about taking full responsibility for your health and prioritizing what it takes to get healthy. So that's really acknowledging that, and obviously you all are doing that because you're in this course and you're making the time and prioritizing, focusing on your health. And it's really just the idea that, some chiropractor or acupuncturist or doctor, they can give me good advice and give me good treatments, but ultimately I'm the one who needs to figure out how to get myself my healthiest, and I'm the one who needs to make those changes, which with loving support, and then I'm the one who's going to put it into my calendar or make the time during the day to make those changes, even when they're challenging. So that's what Take Charge is really about, is making that commitment and knowing what a badass you are and that you can do it. And Nurture Your Heart is about having regular practices to reduce fear, increase joy, and clear up your thinking and your ability to to think really well. It's about having that meditation practice in the morning, the journaling practice, the prayer practice, the listening partnerships, whatever it is that I find personally that it works best when it's done daily, sort of preventively almost, at least 15 minutes a day, but even more maybe, to really work through the emotions that are getting in our way, that are stopping us from sticking to our commitments or making us believe that we can't do something that maybe we could do. So practice 2 is nurture your heart. Practice 3 was believe, and that was about developing a fierce confidence in yourself and your ability to heal. And we talked then about all the stories of, like my brother who was sick for 20 some years, who really now has a thriving piano studio after being blind and not able to leave his house for almost 3 decades. And others, Cecil, who had terrible, debilitating stomach pain for 3 decades and then finally found out, had the surgery to get it healed. And there's so many stories like that of people who maintain belief that they would heal. And sometimes it took a few decades. For me, I was really lucky. It only took 6 years. Relatively speaking, that's lucky, right? So just about figuring out how that when we try something and it doesn't work, how can we nurture our heart to go back and then develop that belief again and moving forward? So that was practice 3, was believing. Practice 4, and again, I know I've said this so many times, but on that believe, it's not, and this is not about the power of positive thinking, that if we just believe we'll get well, we will. Maybe that's possible, I don't know. But it's more about if we believe that we can get well, we're more likely to do the things that will help us really heal to our fullest extent, whatever that is for each one of us, right? Then practice 4 was connect, and that was about building a strong support team and enriching your relationships in the process. And we all really challenged ourselves, or, maybe some of us didn't because we were working more on creating order or nurturing our hearts, and that's okay. But the idea was at some point to challenge yourself to reach out to others and to bring them in on your healing process, whether it's people you already know and relationships you already have, or figuring out how you can either online or in person develop more relationships with people that you could reach out to. And then the last practice was create order. Use organizing principles to support your healing work, whether it's decluttering or managing your time or organizing a space for yoga or a space to make food. We talked about a bunch of different ways that you can use organizing principles to support your healing work. So those are all the practices that we covered in the last 5 weeks. And if you want to think for yourself, those are all listed on page 1 of your workbook. If there's one in particular that really speaks to you, that you feel like this is where I have a big learning curve, this one, if I really applied it more in my life, would make an enormous difference, you might want to just circle it and note that for yourself. Like where can you get the most leverage and get the most change going forward? So then let's see. Sorry, I just got distracted for a second by something on my computer. There we go. So the first thing I want to talk about before we get into some exercises, on page 1, it says life is like an ocean liner. It's got some bullet points. And then on the next page, we're going to get into some exercises. And how is life like an ocean liner? So what I want us to think about is that, oftentimes at the end of this course, people have a combination of feeling really good about what they've accomplished and beating themselves up a little bit about what didn't get accomplished. So we're going to look at both sides of that today. We're going to look at how did we move forward and what changes did we make, and what were some things that didn't quite happen the way we would have liked to, and how can we work on those going forward. And as we do that, I really want to have us to have this ocean liner image in our minds, because an ocean liner needs a far off destination to move forward. If it doesn't have a destination, it's going to get lost and end up in storms and end up God knows where, right? So for one, we need a destination, and we've talked about that, having that inspiring destination to move forward. And then 2, several small changes made consistently can radically change your destination, right? So in this 5 weeks, if there's just one change, like one small to medium change that you've made in your life or in the way you think, that's a big deal. And if you keep making small changes like that over the next year or the next 2 years, you're going to be in a radically different destination, right? Also, like an ocean liner, when you're leaving land, for example, it's helpful to look back and see how far you've come rather than always just focus on how far is left to go. I find that's really important in life in general. When we have big goals, sometimes we can beat ourselves up that we haven't gotten where we want to get to. But it's important to also notice, oh, but look, I used to be way back there, and I've already moved this many steps forward, and to notice how many steps you have taken. And also, the progress is hard work. All of these changes we're trying to make are very difficult. There's a reason why there's billions and billions of dollars being made on different diets and exercise regimens and all kinds of things, because it's challenging and people have a hard time figuring out how to get healthy. So congratulate yourselves on every little bit of progress that you've made. So with all of that in mind, what I want to invite you to do is go to page 2 in your workbook, and it says, look how far I've come. And there's just 4 pretty simple questions there, and they're on the screen here too. Question 1, how did I do on my original 5-week health goals? How have I shifted my beliefs or perspectives? How have I shifted my habits or behaviors? And what other shifts did I make that will help me progress towards my health goal in the future? So those are the questions I want to invite you to write about or think about right now, or dictate into your phone, if that's easier for you than writing, whatever you want to do. So again, how did I do on my original 5-week health goal? How have I shifted my beliefs or perspectives during this program? How have I shifted my habits or behaviors? And what other shifts did I make that will help me move forwards towards my health goal in the future? So I'll be quiet for a few minutes. And as always, if you can type in done when you're done so that I know, and share if you're willing to share about just any idea, any single idea that came up while you were doing this exercise, that would be great. Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. So far only a couple of people have written that they're done, which is fine. It's great to really take your time with this. But when you do finish, please do write done because I'll wait till about half of everybody is done before we start sharing. So I want to give you the time. So about another minute or so, and then we'll start wrapping up and begin sharing. It's great to take your time and really focus on everything you've accomplished in the last bunch of weeks. Okay, great. So it looks like most folks are done writing, and if you're not, you can keep writing as we start sharing. Nancy, thanks for saying that you're willing to share. I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Nancy.
Did you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. So I wanted to share that a couple of things. One is that I've shared. So I'm going to go to the shifted behaviors and habits first, and that's that I have pretty much integrated having a salad every day for one meal, and that's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and it was really great to take this period of time to focus on it and do that, and I'm really, really hoping and wanting, my goal is to keep that going. Um, I've also um, I've also started walking more, and that's come about through something that is sort of a circumstance thing, which is that we now have a dog. We've gotten a dog in our house in the last few weeks. So most every day I've been taking a walk with my daughter and the dog when she walks the dog, and so that gives me some really nice time with my daughter and some movement, and it's been really, really great. One of the things that I've noticed in terms of my belief of perspective is that I realized that I have a sleep disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and I have sleep apnea and circadian rhythm disorders, and I haven't focused on that in here. I wanted to focus more on the food and moving part, but I've really come to see that all roads lead back to my sleep disorder because it really affects my energy in a big way, and I've been really struggling with it. So the other night, I just went online and got a ton of resources that I sort of sent to myself as links, and now I'm going to start going through them to do some more research on that. And I built in talking with a friend or leaving her a message each day related to my sleep disorder and use of my CPAP machine. And I've realized that I really was more isolated with that than I thought. I've been telling people about it, but there's something about just, I guess I'm friendly and outgoing and I have people I talk with, but really talking in a deeper way about some of this stuff, it's been really helpful just building in time and space to do that. And getting out of the tendency to sort of cover it up or feel bad about myself, but just share it as something else going on, and and trusting that people that I talk with will get it and will, really support my being, telling them what's going on with me. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, that's a lot of big things. I mean, as you and I have talked about, that beginning having a regular walking practice and having a salad for lunch every day, those are, for that ocean liner, those are things that can just make an enormous change over months,
Yeah.
that's exciting. And like you said, and reaching out to more people around the sleep stuff is huge. So I'm excited for you.
Thanks. Me too.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy.
Yep.
Okay, Bonnie, I think we're just gonna, let's see, where is Bonnie? There she is. There you are unmuted, Bonnie. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So, on the shifting of attitude, so the shift I have made that will help me progress towards my health goal in the future is that I have begun to listen to my body
Mm.
and not continue eating, when I'm full just because something tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I've slowed down when I'm eating to where, I taste my food, I'm in touch with how it tastes, and I enjoy it, um, instead of just like gulping it down to get to the next task.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have taken cues from my body that I'm full. And that shift has come about because I really believe that I can take part in healing my body. So, I could be in communication with it so that I can actually achieve more of what my body needs if I'm in communication and receptive to
Yeah.
it. And a lot of that has come to me believing basically, hey, you know what? I can take part in my healing. It's not something that my body is just happening to and I'm helpless.
Right, right. And that's a big piece of taking charge is really listening to our body and listening to the cues and then responding to them and think that, what I do makes a difference. Whether it's about going to being tired and going to sleep or eating or, whatever it is. That's great. That's a big shift, Bonnie.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And my overeating has been an issue all my life. So the fact that I'm addressing it and taking cues from my body and slowing down is really huge. And I've really come about it really listening to my body since this course.
Oh, that's wonderful. And if and working on it on your own is so powerful. And I don't know if you've used groups in the past, but if you are interested in exploring group support around that, shoot me an email and we can talk about that too. Because
Okay.
there are so many, because it is the kind of thing that we can change our beliefs and our attitudes, and that helps them enormously. But accountability also makes a big difference because eating's not like alcohol. We can't just turn it off. We have to always be in relationship with food, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. But that's great. I love it. And how you described it was really beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we have time for one more person on this exercise. It's great to hear how everybody has grown and shifted in the last bunch of weeks. So, Diane,
Oh, hi.
hi.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes, we
yes.
can hear you.
So I looked back through to the things that I wrote, and please repeat for me what we're talking about right now. Like you just want to hear how
Oh,
we did on our
if there
5 week
was
goals, or
if there was something in specific that you wanted to share from this exercise you just did, just one
sure.
one thought, just one thing that you noticed that jumped
Okay.
out at you.
So what I noticed in general, one of the main things is that I'm often doing better than I think I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It, I noticed how long it took for me to find the written down evidence so I could be reminded of, oh yeah, that's right, I did this, because of that kind of habit of sort of only seeing what isn't done and really realizing I actually have done a lot. One thing I did was I started using my daily chart again, which is a chart I made that has little checkoffs like ate breakfast, got dressed, made my bed, took my vitamins. It's just tons of little tiny things that I can check off. And when I use it, it helps. And it helps me be more on target. The other thing was that I've been having really debilitating pain and swelling in my foot and ankle from injuries over the last 2 years that never really got treatment. And I've been trying to find PT, takes my insurance, and have had trouble finding PT. And somebody said to me, well, just pay attention to what you do that makes it worse and what you do that makes it better. And I started really listening to my foot and ankle, and I realized it really wanted to be wrapped and supported. It probably should have been in a cast, initially, after the injury. And so I wrapped it really well every day for several weeks. And I have had a reduction in pain, an increase in mobility in the area, and a reduction in swelling. And I, I really feel pleased that I was actually able to make progress on an injury that had no progress for many, many months. So
That's huge. That's huge. And again, that's really taking charge. That's really, okay, what can I do about it? And then you chose something to do and you did it consistently and it made a difference. That's really, that's a big deal.
And the other, the quick thing,
You know what, Diane, just in the interest of time, I'm gonna ask you to, we're gonna wrap up and move on. But that was all great, everything you shared. I really appreciate it, and it's all so important. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, and this is, and I think, and a lot of us have this something, you know, a couple of people mentioned that it's hard sometimes to notice what we have done and we more notice what we haven't done. And so I really want to encourage us all to keep looking back on, what were the things that I did do, and celebrating the successes, not to the extent that we let ourselves off the hook. We also need to look at where we're not meeting our goals so that we can keep working on those, but to keep celebrating those successes and keep really noticing the progress we're making in everything. You know, it really helps us keep moving forward, and it makes such a big difference. So now the next thing we're going to do, this is a great quote that I love from Henry Ford. Let's see, it says, for those of you who don't have the screen in front of you, it says, "Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently." And as someone who was raised in sort of an upper middle class white suburban neighborhood where, you know, one of these all the children are above average kind of situations, I definitely was not raised with the idea that failure is a good thing. So I love this idea as failure as opportunity. You know, it's an opportunity to learn from our mistakes, or even not our mistakes, learn from the experiment that didn't go quite the way we expected to, and see what can we do differently in the experiment next time. So with that in mind, as failure or not meeting goals is just an opportunity to try again in a different way with more information, I want to invite us to look at page 3, Where Do I Want to Go? Part 2. So, and here we have these 6 questions. How can I use my successes to progress even further? What new actions or habits do I want to be sure to keep up in the next 8 weeks? So one thing is, what have I started in the last 6 weeks that I want to keep up in the next 8 weeks? And then let's take a look at, where did I want to make more progress, but I didn't? And why not? And the why not may just be, you know what, I bit off more than I could chew. My original 5-week goals were too much. And actually just starting to eat salads and walking with, you know, from Nancy's example, that's a big accomplishment for 5 weeks, and that's fine. It's okay that I didn't meet this other goal, and now the next 6 weeks I'm going to try to bring that other goal in. That could be it. Or it could be that there was some emotional or logistical block getting in the way. Is there a smaller goal or change that I can aim for as a first step? So maybe if you have a goal that you want to work on from your original 5-week goals that you didn't really work on, maybe that goal was too overwhelming, and maybe you can chunk that down a little smaller. And what can I do, or what support can I get to make progress in this area? So, you know, we're always looking for what support can we get, whether it's online or in person or with somebody else, or groups or books or online research. You know, how can I get some outside thinking and outside love and attention, and maybe help somebody else in the process to move forward on those areas where we didn't quite make progress how we wanted to. So I'm going to be quiet as always now, and let you work on this for the next few minutes. And as always, when you're done, type done, and when you want to share, if you are willing to share, type share. Okay, I'll be quiet now. Great. Okay, so I want to start having folks share in about a minute or so. Again, if you're done, please type done. And if you're willing to share, type share. And we're going to wrap up in about a minute or so and do a little bit of sharing and then move on to the next section. Okay, let's see, I think Marion, thank you so much for offering to share. I'm going to unmute you. We haven't gotten to hear from you at all today, so welcome. And hi.
Hi.
So yeah, any thoughts that you have after this exercise? What came up for you?
Well, I two things came up for me. One is that I tend to do too many scattered things rather than sticking with one project, over 2 or 3 days to actually, make headway.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think that when I make only a little bit of progress on 6 things, I don't notice it as much as when I make a lot of progress or even complete, one thing.
Uh-huh.
And usually those one things are the items that I procrastinate and avoid doing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned and that I would like to use more in the future is the whole idea of like the task teaming twosomes where I start a difficult task by having a 10-minute telephone conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually good to complete that task usually after that happens. But since I don't have the self-discipline right now to actually, do the things that I've written down to do in my calendar, I really need to use that kind of support to get me going.
Right, I hear you. It's an exciting revelation to find out that there is something that can help you get going.
Yes.
What I hear you talking about, it makes me think of a couple different principles. One is eat the frog. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but there's a whole beating procrastination principle. It's called eat the frog, which is about nobody wants to ever eat a frog, but you do the hardest thing first. And that once you get that hardest thing done, like you said, you feel better when you really have some big thing that's been hanging over. If you get that thing done, then it sort of gives you ammunition and fuel to then have a better day and be more functioning for the rest of the day. So there is a little bit of that eat the frog, get that one thing done. And then there's also just, I think that, when so much of what being with one other person helps us do on the phone is just focus. A lot of us have a very hard time focusing on one thing, and even to get us to start it is hard. And then once we start it, if we're a minute into it, we could easily get distracted, do something else. But if somebody's there with us, helping us focus our attention on this thing for 5 or 10 minutes, then we're more likely to be able to continue working on it.
Yes.
So, and then the only thing I'll say, and I'm saying this because it's been my experience too, because it helps me so much, like I've said, with my writing and my work and my health stuff, it helps me so much to have somebody else. I sometimes can get in a trap where I feel like if I don't have that person, I can't do the thing. So we just want to be able to, stay flexible in our thinking that that's one tool, but then there are other tools too. Like even when we're alone, we can sometimes journal our way into it, or Hitbodedut, like that's a Jewish, I think you probably know that Jewish phrase for, personal prayer our way into it. There are other tools also, but that, getting that other person is a great one. That's a great one to use.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Marianne. I appreciate it. Was there anything else you want to add?
No, I just hope that folks stay connected with the Facebook page or with email so that we can use each other as resources for that.
Yeah, I know there are about 4 or 5 of you, I think, who now are connected via email to be able to connect to each other. So I encourage you, and this is a good opportunity to be pleasantly persistent. It's the kind of thing that people can be excited about and then sort of forget why they were excited about it. So it may take being pleasantly persistent and keep reaching out to each other and keep trying each other to make sure that it really happens, and exchange phone numbers too, so you can text, and to really, keep going for it, even if it's a little bit hard to get it going in the beginning.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea to exchange phone numbers. That would make things so much easier.
Yeah, so if you can do that over email, that would be good.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Marion. So the next thing that we're going to look at is where do I want to go? Part 2. And we're just going to real quickly come up with what are your 2 8-week goals from now. I think it might say June 29th. It shouldn't say that. It should say 8 weeks from now. So now we're on August 10th, so roughly October 10th. Between now and October 10th, what are 2 things that you'd like to accomplish? And you know what? They might be maintain what I've accomplished in these 8 weeks, in these 6 weeks, or it might be something else. And you could also just come up with one 8-week goal. So we're not going to share these because we need to keep, in the interest of continuing to move forward. I'll just give you a couple minutes and you can fill in 1 or 2 of those. And here are some examples of possible. I will develop a daily meditation habit, or you can say I will keep up the daily meditation habit I've created. I'll have conversations with all the key players in my family about how we can work as a team to improve my health and all of our lives. I'll cut added sugar out of my diet. I'll lose 5 pounds, or I'll develop a daily exercise practice. And in truth, I don't like the I'll lose 5 pounds as much as I like all the rest. And by that I mean I think it's more, for these short goals, sometimes it's more effective to have process goals, like what am I going to do to move my health forward, as opposed to how am I going to end up in 5 or 6 weeks. So I'll be quiet for just a minute or two while you fill out on page 4, what are my 2 8-week goals? Okay, I'm gonna, it looks like most of you have written down one or two goals, so I'm gonna move on for how we can, some of the key to achieving those goals. The Seinfeld show hasn't been on TV in a long time, although I guess it's still on in syndication. But I thought we would have a Jerry Seinfeld quote here: "Don't break the chain." There's a great principle from Jerry Seinfeld about how you accomplish any goal in life. And so he said the way that to be a better comic was to create better jokes. And the way to create better jokes was to write every day. And so this is the story of him giving some advice to a younger comic, that his advice was better than just writing every day. He had a gem of a leverage technique that he used on himself and that we can all use to motivate ourselves, even when we don't feel like it, in theory. And so he described this unique calendar system, Jerry Seinfeld did, that he used to pressure himself to write. He said to get a big wall calendar that has a whole year on one page and hang it on a prominent wall. And then get a big red magic marker. And for each day of writing, you get to put a big red X over that day. And as Jerry Seinfeld says, after a few days, you'll have a chain. And you just keep at it, and the chain will get longer and longer, and you'll like seeing that chain, especially when you get a few weeks under your belt. And then your only job is to not break the chain. Don't break the chain of success. And the idea is that we can use this technique in any area, for exercising, to learn a new skill, to build a website, to build a successful business, for anything we want to do. And it works because the reality is, as we all know, it's not just the one-shot efforts that get us where we want to go, but it's really the consistent daily habits and actions every day that give us these extraordinary outcomes that enabled us to accomplish things we didn't think we could do. There's the saying, inch by inch, anything is a cinch, which is kind of a cliched saying, and it's not true that it's a cinch, but inch by inch, things are more possible, but that we do need to move that inch every day. Now, the problem for me with this don't break the chain idea is that I don't get very excited about not breaking the chain. I have to be totally honest. I tried this, and I was like, oh, look, I broke the chain. Oh, well. And now some people get really excited about it, and this works for them, but for me, it didn't. So I have a little bit of a suspicion that Jerry Seinfeld is Jerry Seinfeld because he's the kind of person who's motivated to work his butt off just by a big wall calendar and a red magic marker. That's enough accountability and motivation for him, and that's fantastic, but some of us need a little bit more. So I know that for me, having an accountability partner or having a health coach or even teaching these classes, and then I have to every week say what I've done, that's the accountability that I need. And most of my clients also, the reason they come to a health coach is that they need support to not break their chain as opposed to just the wall calendar in themselves. So the next thing I want to invite us all to do, this is a great quote. Accountability is the glue that ties commitments to results. I think that's a great quote. We can make commitments, but how do those commitments turn into results? We have this glue called accountability. And there's a lot of ideas behind accountability in the world. Most successful entrepreneurs cite the importance of having mentors or peers or investors or networking groups to whom they were accountable as they started out. So people that we look at and we see, oh, look, they're so successful. The reality is they did it by getting people around them. And people tend to be more likely to achieve their work goals than their personal goals. Why is that? Well, it's because serious accountability is built in at work. You don't get your paycheck, or you get demoted, or you don't get a raise, or people get angry at you if you don't turn in what you're supposed to turn in, whether it's to a client or to your coworkers. So, we have a lot of accountability at work, but we don't necessarily as much at home in our private lives. And also, studies shows that people are more likely to lose weight and transition into a healthy lifestyle if they work with some form of accountability program. So it's just the kind of thing that we all like to think, well, we can do it, we can sort of white knuckle it on our own. But the reality is, people who succeed usually succeed by creating a team around them and being involved with others as they go forward. And why is that? So the benefits of accountability, as we all know, it keeps you focused and engaged so you don't drift off somewhere else. It moves the tasks up in priority on your to-do list when you know that somebody else is checking in. It sort of moves it from priority B, C to priority A or B. It provides friendly competition and inspiration. If you and the group that you're being accountable with are all working on similar things, then a little competition, did you do it? I got it done. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can be inspired by their successes. And you can also get honest feedback and encouragement. There's lots of different kinds of accountability systems. There's 12-step programs or Weight Watchers. There's having a boss, like recreating the work environment, almost like having a physical fitness trainer or a nutritionist who gives you specific instructions. There's a life coach or a health coach. There's support groups. There's accountability partnerships with a friend or a group of friends. There's lots of different kinds of accountability. On page 6, there's this list that you have on your workbook on page 6 of all these different accountability systems. Now, what makes a good system for you? Because the reality is we're all different. So it's something that actually holds you accountable, that asks for a report from last week and a plan for this week every time, that doesn't let you get away with sort of futzing here and there. It holds you accountable in the sense that it asks you why you weren't able to meet any goals that you missed, so you have that opportunity. And remember what we said, using failure as an opportunity to learn and do better next time. And it's safe, caring, and non-judgmental, and challenging at the same time. And it's reliable, that you know that it meets regularly and on time. So what I want to invite you to do now on page 6, just take a few minutes and explore accountability and you. So these 3 questions: what are 1 or 2 places where I'm a bit stuck in my health efforts, where some accountability could help me move forward? What kind of accountability system might work best for me, a program, a group, a partner, a coach? And what action do I need to take to explore putting some of that into place? And when might I take those steps? So I am going to be quiet right now for about 3 or 4 minutes and give you some time to answer those questions so that you can really begin to think about what can I put into place to help me stay really accountable to my goals in the next 8 weeks going forward. And as always, if you can type done when you're done, that would be fantastic. And I think we're going to take time for those who want to stay on until 3:30. We'll take time to share some of the ideas about this during the Q&A. Okay, it looks like a bunch of you are done and have had a chance to think a little bit about how you want to put some accountability in place for yourselves going forward. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you're invited. I've so enjoyed working with each one of you in this last 6 weeks, and so I want to make sure that you know that you're invited to the fall 2016 course. It is this course again, and it's always, the sessions on the webinars are pretty much the same, but I write fresh emails twice a week, and the Q&A is always different, and the people who participate are always different. So I know this time there's 3 people in this course that did it in the spring also. We're starting again on Thursday at noon, Thursday, October 6th at noon, and we're going to do them, instead of doing them Wednesdays at 2, we're going to try them Thursdays at noon, because I've gotten some feedback that that's a better time for a lot of folks. And so that's the Find Your Path to Health course that's coming up in the fall, and I would love to, if you want to use that as part of your accountability going forward, that would be fantastic. And also, to make it accessible, as always, I'm offering it for $297. However, for you folks, I want to give you a 10% discount because I appreciate so much that you did this summer course. So if you sign up 1 month in advance, and I'll send you a reminder, if you sign up by Thursday, September 8th, then you get the 10% discount for just $267 for that fall course. And again, I would love to do the course with you again. I personally do it, every time I go along, and I do the workbooks and I do all the stuff and all of the exercises and the accountability partnerships, and I know that it's part of what keeps me healthy, because I just always have this accountability 4 times a year, and it makes a big difference. I also just want to let you know that if you bring a friend, if you recommend the course to a friend, and they agree to come along, then that you can take $100 off. So if you bring 3 friends, you get to join up free. And if you have some people who are interested in it, but they're on the fence, I'm always happy to talk to people. A 20-minute intro conversation with me is totally free. And if they're sort of like, I'm not so sure, ask them if you can introduce them to me by email, and I would be happy to hear what their health goals are and help them figure out if this is a good match for them. So I hope that you'll join me again in the fall, if that makes sense for you. I would love to be with any of you again this fall. And in the meantime, the Facebook group will still be there. I will not be as active on it necessarily. I'll pop in every now and then, but I won't necessarily be checking it every day. And I encourage you to keep up your accountability partnerships if that makes sense for you, and if the one that you have in this group wasn't exactly right for you, to then create another one. You can always review and redo the exercises in your handout. And I'm also, of course, available for weekly or one-time coaching. If you go to coaching.JeanetteHJ.com, that's coaching.JeanetteHJ.com, and Liz will send you that link either today or tomorrow. Also, you can always sign up for a monthly coaching program with me, or just a one-time coaching session. I would be happy to would love to do that. Would love to connect with any of you individually. That would be great. So in the meantime, as we switch into our next gear for the 3 o'clock planning our actions for the week and the Q&A, I want to leave you with this quote. I love it. It says, "When I'm at the bottom looking up, the main question may not be, how do I get out of this hole? In reality, the main question might be, how do I get rid of the shovel that I used to dig it?" Takes a minute maybe to think about that, but it's just great to really question for ourselves. And again, not that I think that we brought whatever our health challenges are on ourselves by any means. There are a lot of things in the environment and fate and genes and who knows that led us to be in the have the health challenges that we do. And we all know that there are ways in which we manage our health challenges that are not as effective and not as healing as they possibly could be. So what's the shovel that's digging our own hole? What hole are we in? And what shovel are we using to dig that hole? What's something that if we change that one thing, it could really help shift things for us? That's just always a great question for us to be asking going forward. And having more people around us paying attention helps us look for that question and get that answered more readily. So please stick around for 30 minutes. I'm certainly going to. We're going to take about 10 minutes now and do the weekly Choose Your Actions exercise. And then we're going to do the 20 minutes of Q&A. So on page 8 of your workbook, and I just noticed for those of you that I skipped over the setting up your accountability systems. Step 1, step 2, step 3. My feeling was the exercises were all sort of longer than I had thought, and I felt like, and we were running out of time a little bit. So if you want to, in the 3 o'clock time, you could also do this. on page 7 of your workbook, you could think about, you could write down specifically what steps you need to take to set up your accountability system, whether it's looking into a support group or calling a friend, and when are you going to do that. You could do that on page 7, or you could actually just put that into your actions on page 8. So again, for choosing your actions, the same as we do it every week. Step 1 is to choose a 1-week mini goal for this week. Step 2 is to choose some bite-sized doable actions that you can do to move yourself towards that goal this week. And step 3 is to estimate how long those will take. And then step 4 is to say when you're going to do those things. Okay? So I am going to be quiet for about 9 minutes now, and then I will come back on at 3:10, and we'll start the Q&A. And if you think of questions as you're writing these actions, or if you have something you want to share, we didn't share our 8-week goals. If you want to share your 8-week goal, if there's anything that you want to say during the Q&A, or if you have a question about the fall course, you can type that in now, and then you'll get in the queue, in the line for the Q&A. Okay, I'm going to be quiet now for a little bit while you all get to work on, and I will too, on choosing our actions for this week. I notice there's no sample for choose your actions on page 8 in your workbook, so I'll leave up this one on the screen if that's helpful to you. Somebody just asked if I'm still here. I am definitely still here. I'm just letting you all work on your actions until 3:10. And it looks like a few people are done, but a few people are still writing. So I will come back on in about a minute or so. Okay, great. I hope everybody had some time to focus on what you want to accomplish this week. Just because of, I'm just going to make sure, can folks type yes into their little question area, just so I know that you can hear me. That would be great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. So to start answering questions, Nancy asked just a logistical question of how long are the recorded sessions available? Liz and I are working on transferring the GoToWebinar recorded sessions into YouTube videos that you can just click on the link and then watch at your leisure. So we will have all of them ready for you, along with the workbooks and the PDFs of the slides and everything. We'll have those all by the end of the week, and we'll send you a link. And I think the last few weeks, Liz has been sending everybody a link of your course page where everything is in one place that you'll have for the whole course. So you'll have that by the end of this week. And those sessions will be available, I can't say forever, because I don't know, at some point I may change careers and take down my website, but I don't expect that to happen for many years. So I would say indefinitely, at least for the next year or two, at the very least, those recorded sessions will be available. Let's see, Deborah, you said you have a few questions, so I am going to go to you. Let me find you here on our little list. There it is. Okay, Deborah, go ahead.
Okay, I was wondering whether we could somehow pay a small fee and still get your emails even if we don't plan to take the next round of this course. Because I find them really helpful, both inspiring and just, it leads me to more research and all of that. So like if you had some kind of tiered level, and maybe that could be just available to people who've already taken the course or something.
Right, that's an interesting idea. I will definitely think about that. I do send out weekly emails to my whole list that you all haven't been getting necessarily during this course. Because you would be getting too many emails from me if I did that. And they often are about things in the course, so you will get those emails. It's almost every week, not every week. That's an interesting question. Let me think about it. I love the idea. I would need to think about how that would work, but thanks.
Okay. And then just a couple other things. One is, I'd be interested in whatever, healthy eating support groups you know about. I mean, I'm not interested in like Overeaters Anonymous or Weight Watchers. I did the integral eating introduction, whatever. I can't remember the name of it right now. And that was okay, but no more helpful than the guy's books were. Mm-hmm. That's Mark David or David Mark, something like that. Mm-hmm. But if there were others that you recommended, I'd be interested in knowing about them. And also, I'm sorry to say I'm not going to be able to do the accountability group. I'm just way over my head in helping my dad with his stuff. Mm-hmm. And I found that just getting the planning emails and even thinking about the accountability group was putting me over the edge rather than being something I was excited about. So I would like to ask that my email be taken off that, like if people are going to send out, do a new email list and don't put me on it.
Okay, I mean that's so.
Is that
I totally hear you, and it's so good to figure out what you can and can't do. I of course have no control over that anymore because I just
No, I'm just putting that out
so
to the
the
group.
folks who are here on, yes, I think all the people who said that they were interested are on and listening right now. So everybody heard that that if they want to take your name off and communicate with each other and say, hey, does anybody want to organize that? That's fine, but that it doesn't make sense for you to organize that. And it's always good to know what we have the bandwidth for and be honest about that. That is important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed that my life is like that right now, but that's just how it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I know you really wanted to do it. So hopefully you'll get through this period and then you'll be able to do something like that going forward.
yeah, it's just not, I can't foresee it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Thanks. Let's see. Diane asked, how do you create a working partnership? I imagine, Diane, that you mean a working accountability partnership. Like everything, a lot of it is trial and error. And sometimes we try it, and sometimes we try it with one person, and maybe it doesn't work so well. And it's just really a matter of finding somebody, either seeing if somebody from this group wants to do it or someone from your life. But I think a very important piece of it is just being, again, pleasantly persistent. If you write to somebody and they don't write back, to write to them again, pleasantly, always pleasantly. 2 is just to be really careful. Often accountability partnerships sort of fall apart if they become at all uneven. If either person feels like the other one is either needing more time or not really sticking to their commitments. So, a really important piece of it is sticking to commitments and sticking to times and using the timer and making sure each person gets their time and not going over time and showing up on time and all those kinds of things, and just being really respectful in our language to each other, and being really encouraging. I know I sent out that 2 or 3 page document about accountability partnerships that has some advice also and some suggestions about how to really make accountability partnerships that work. So I think for now I'm going to leave it at that. If you have more specific if you have more specific questions that you want to ask, then you're welcome to you can write that. Let's see what else. I'm just looking at people's questions here. Let's see. Marion, it looks like you have a question. I am going to unmute you right here. Here we go. There we go. You're unmuted, Marion.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read what I wrote you. When I was filling out my action plan for the week, my niece is coming to visit, and so I wanted to just write down what I need to declutter for her to come, and I listed 9 actions that it will take me to complete this one single goal. And of course I have other goals as well. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, since a week only has 7 days, even if I choose to do one of these a day, I have too many. So how do I prioritize these, in terms of what criteria do I use? Do I do what pleases me the most, what pleases my partner the most? And, or what other criteria can I use?
And is this a goal that you said you need to get done this week, or could it happen over the next 2 weeks?
It can happen over the next 9 days.
So, Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that happens a lot with our planning, for example, yesterday I shared time with someone that I listened to them for 15 minutes and they listened to me for 15 minutes or 12 minutes. I don't remember what it was. Um, and I took most of my 12 minutes just to plan my day to day. And it was really useful because I realized that I had 3 hours fewer of work time than I thought I did. And so I was able to notice, oh, I'm not going to be able to do these 7 things tomorrow. I'm only going to get these 3 things done tomorrow. So I think the exercise you're doing right now of noticing, oh, it's not realistic to do all of these 9 things in 6 days. Maybe I need 9 or 10 days to do all of these things. And sometimes things just take longer than we want. So maybe it's just, adjusting when you want to get it done by.
That's true. And I think what you just mentioned is really what helps me the most. If I can just for 10 minutes have a conversation with somebody to sort of clear my head about it, then, and in fact, Krista and I have been doing a lot of that in our accountability partner work. But it really helps me, as you said, just really figure out what the structure is and what I should expect, what's realistic. So I guess one of the things that I should probably do habitually, at least for now, is go over my 1-week goals with somebody.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, the most sort of super organized people that I know in the world are 2 of my sisters-in-law who, and they both say that they spend probably an hour, if not more, every Sunday evening planning out the whole week. What the meal plan is, when they're going to do what their responsibilities are towards the kids, towards their husband, towards their family, their commute, when they're going to do everything. And then they sort of move gracefully through the week because they have this plan, which needs adjustments. And for me, I can only do that if I found that it helps me to be able to do at least part of that with somebody else. So I'll do a listening partnership at the beginning. And again, it really just helps having somebody else's attention. And if I can't do a listening partnership, like I said, then I'll use one of the other tools in my toolbox and I'll journal first or something else. But yeah, just to do that, have that planning period where you can just focus on, okay, what's really realistic and when can it happen? It makes an enormous difference.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Well, actually, while I still have you, if there's anybody interested in doing a listening partnership with me to walk through this, I would be most appreciative. And so please send me an email.
So, and you're saying, so you would sort of listen to them for 10, 15 minutes and on whatever they want to talk about, whether it's their goals or their actions, and then they would listen to you, right?
Yes.
So can you say your email address now very slowly twice? And if people want to write to you, they can.
Yes. It's Marian, M-A-R. Actually, I'm going to give you my phone number, and you can text me or call. And so my phone number is 781-771-4003.
Okay, will you say that again?
781-771-4003.
So if folks are interested in setting up listening partnerships around listening partnerships or accountability partnerships, either one, you could do it, you could set it up in different ways, but basically giving each other time. Like, I'll give you 10 minutes, you give me 10 minutes to help move forward on, and you've talked about moving forward on specific tasks, and this is also about using it to move forward in planning. Then you can call Marian. That's great. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, Marian. I appreciate it. I'm going to mute you now. Let's see. Okay, so there's a few other questions on here. I'm just reading through the questions and making sure I didn't miss any. Okay, let's see. Diane said, is there a place where the other tools in my toolbox are written down? So, Diane, they're all throughout the course, I think I've been talking about, in the section on nurturing your heart, we talked a lot about listening partnerships and journaling. So those are where 2 tools are written. And then I've just mentioned a lot meditating or prayer. So those are all great tools, just 4 tools right there. Journaling, meditation, prayer, listening partnerships. Listening partnerships is something you do with somebody else, but the journaling and prayer and meditation, the nice thing about those is you can do them on your own to help you get back on track. Diane, you also asked, what's the difference between listening partner and accountability partner? That's a great question. Accountability partnership is really very specifically focused on asking each other, how did your commitments go this week? What got in the way? What do you want to do for next week? And just, did you get done what you wanted to do? And if not, why? And what do you want to do next week? So that's the main purpose of an accountability partnership, just to be accountable to each other and move forward. Okay? A listening partnership, practicing listening partnerships, is a very specific tool that we learned about in week 2, Nurture Your Heart, where you set up, where you're diving specifically into the emotional things that get in the way, and you're giving each other loving attention, and one person just talks for whatever time they need, and they really go into the emotional difficulties that they're having and how that's getting in the way of whatever they're trying to achieve. And if you want to learn more about them, there's 12 pages on them in my book, Everyday Healing. And that also mentions some other resources. And that's really about listening partnerships. And in your accountability partnership, if you want to do a 45-minute accountability partnership, in the first 20 minutes is you each talk for 8 minutes about your commitments. And then you each go back and you each do another 10 minutes on a listening partnership and just really dive into the emotions and what was getting in the way. You can do listening partnerships within accountability partnerships sometimes to nurture your heart and address your emotions in those accountability partnerships. And that can be really, really helpful. So I hope that clarifies that a little bit. And again, if you want to learn more about listening partnerships, in week 2, you can listen to that session again where we talked about it. And in my book, Everyday Healing, there's a bunch of pages on it in the section on Nurture Your Heart. Julie says she wants to share some appreciations. That sounds lovely. So Julie, I'm going to unmute you. Hello.
Hi, Jeanette. Hi, everybody. I am so extremely grateful for our group. I am so grateful to you, Jeanette. For people who don't know, I took this in the spring and I'm taking it now. I met Jeanette, I think it was in October when she was visiting California. I knew I had to go to her talk and I knew I had to join this, and sometimes I look ahead and at what I have left to accomplish, but especially with today, I'm able to look back at what I did accomplish and how much I've changed. And in our accountability partnerships, you tell us to express our appreciation for one another, and I just want to express to all of us my appreciation to you, Jeanette, to everyone in the group that I've gotten to know through our sharing and learn from and enjoyed getting to know. And last but not least, to my wonderful accountability partner, Deborah. I couldn't have had a better accountability partner. She is so good, and she's so good with me. And I believe I support her, but I know she supports me tremendously. And also, I went on and on the other day, and it wasn't right. It wasn't sticking to the time or anything at all. And then she sent me an email, and I wrote back, and she said, "Thank you for your responsible and compassionate response." And I feel so honored that you would keep up with me, Deborah, despite making it difficult for you sometimes. So I am very grateful.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. And Julie, I always say about these programs when I talk to the people who are thinking about getting involved, I say to them, you get out of these programs what you put into them. like any online program, like any course. And I know that you and Deborah too, and most of you, everyone who's on today for sure, because you're all still on at 3:30 on the last day, have really put a lot into the course, and you've done your accountability partnerships, and you've come every week, and you've read the emails, and you've done the work, and it really moves you forward. So, and it's always more fun for me when I have people who are really engaged and really using it and experiencing changes in their life. So I really want to appreciate you, Julie, and really all of you for engaging in this so deeply and really using this opportunity and investing in it, and then using the time to really make changes in your life. It's such a thrill for me to get to be a witness to that, to those transformations. So thank you for saying all that, and thank you for doing everything you've done, Julie.
Thank you.
Sure. So I think that is everything for today, and that's a wrap on our program. And again, I'd love to work with any of you, either individually. You can go to my website, or in the course again in the fall. And you'll certainly be hearing from me by various emails. And I do encourage you to stay in touch with each other via the Facebook page and through your accountability partnerships and everything else. And thanks so much for going on this journey with me. It's been fantastic. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I will be in touch with you all again soon. So take care and have a great day.